Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar for New York Men's and Women's July. We're just going to give it a few minutes to let everybody come on the webinar and then we will get started. Thanks. Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. My name is Erin McDonald, Marketing Manager here at UBM Fashion. I'd like to welcome you to the New York Men's and Women's July 101 webinar. Today, we will be covering everything that you need to know before attending our new marketplace, New York Men's and Women's July, including the inside scoop on the show and how to successfully prepare for this new dual-gender marketplace. Before we start the presentation, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. To hear the presentation, make sure your computer volume is all the way turned up. If you're having issues, please check your system settings. Please note you will be placed on mute for the duration of the call. All questions will be addressed via the Q&A log that you can find there and will be addressed during or at the end of the presentation. If you're experiencing any system issues at all, you can click on the help option in your registration reminder email or try the Q&A and we'll try and help you out there too. I'd now like to introduce our speakers for today. We are lucky enough to have Mercedes Gonzalez of Global Purchasing Companies with us. She is here to lend her expert advice. Mercedes is the founder and director of Global Purchasing Companies and is praised for sharing the tricks of the trade with over 20 years experience in the apparel industry and traveling to countless countries for trade shows. In addition, we are joined by Celeste Bohm, VP of Retail Engagement here at UBM Fashion, and we'll be here to address any questions you may have throughout the presentation. I'm going to hand it over to Mercedes today to get started so you can learn all about our New York Men's and Women's July.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. I am so much looking forward to this trade show. The way that it was put together with the men's market and the women's market, it's the first time, and it just makes it really, really convenient for all of us to be able to shop at the same time, the different markets. I just want to point out that many of you might be just women's retailers, and I want you to take advantage of having these men's shows together because we always find that certain times of the year, even though you are primarily a women's boutique, it might be interesting to have some items, especially gift items for Father's Day, Christmas, graduation, Hanukkah. So just think about those different opportunities that really make your boutique stand out. So during this July show in New York, there's actually 5 shows all under one location, which is the Javits Centers located in New York City. It runs from July the 22nd to the 24th, and you'll find Project, Market, Project Women's, Fame, and Accessories to show. So why do we want to shop at this men's market and women's market? It's really because of the opportunity that's available to you. You'll be able to shop both fast fashion and contemporary and some more heritage brands at this show. You'll be able to work and find new vendors, which is always such an important thing, especially for retailers that have been in business for a very long time. It's so easy just to stay with the sure and tried, but it's so important to always have one edge up against the competition by finding new resources. We'll talk a little bit more about that too. It also gives you a broad overview of what the market is going to be like. And as a credible expert in your industry, it's important to know what every segment of the market is doing, especially if it's something that you don't carry in your store. You'll be able to network with some of the industry people and not only just the brands, but also with other retailers, which I think is really important. The show, again, it's located at the Javits Center, and it's going to be located on 2 floors. You'll walk in and you'll see the registration, and then in level 3, it'll be Project Market, Project Women's Fame and Accessory the show. And I know when you're just looking at this little abstract, colorful blocks, it's kind of hard to understand everything that's going to be happening and how to navigate it. But I just want to tell you something. After going to literally thousands of trade shows, and especially these trade shows, Project and even Magic out in Las Vegas, I still, after all these years, get overwhelmed. So enjoy that feeling and use it to your advantage. So let's talk about each of the shows. Project, which is primarily men's, you're going to find some of the bigger, more important contemporary men's brands. It's broken down by neighborhoods. There's PROJECTSOLE, which is the footwear area. And again, if you don't carry footwear in your store, think of it as something to add to your accessories department. Having that, loafer or that slip-on of the season is so important in completing an outfit and, being able to do an add-on sale. The 10th is the more advanced contemporary. You'll find brands there like Eden Park and May Story, a higher end. And I also would recommend, if you're a new store with some of these brands, they're going to ask a lot of questions about what kind of store you are, what other brands you have. So I always like to come prepared with a little concept book. If the store is not open yet, think of it as a glorified kind of scrapbook about what your store is going to look like visually, the brands, your wish list. So, it's kind of funny because even with myself, when they still ask me like, oh, what brands do you carry? I always draw a blank. So having something written down, something that you could hand to them, and not necessarily that you're going to give it to them, but just something that you could have with some visuals is really, really important. And if your store is open, you're going to find that it's going to be part of the new store forms that they have you fill out. So having all that information already concise in one spot while you're traveling the show really makes it much easier. And if you even can call ahead to make an appointment with some of these bigger brands, I would really recommend it. The Foundry is very hand-selected accessories. There's a little bit of home and a little bit of contemporary, which is kind of interesting because we're finding the importance of really mixing the product brand to build a whole lifestyle in your store. So if you haven't carried some cosmetics in women's, and if you haven't carried some home accessories for both men and women, it's really an opportunity to start doing your research for those additional add-ons. And then Blue Project is just what it sounds like. It's all the denim. There's the heritage brands, the contemporary brands, international brands. So it's really where to find the best selection of all the denim brands that you might want to have. There's a lot of things happening and a lot of events. And the nice thing is this presentation is going to be available for download. So you don't have to take crazy notes right now. But again, I do encourage you to take part of some of these events. It could even be just hanging out at the juice bar for a little while because, most famously, a lot of business and a lot of opportunities happen, not necessarily in the booth. So that appointment that you've been trying to get for a very long time with a vendor that just keeps saying that they're too busy or they don't have time or they're not taking on new clients, meeting them in a social situation or even networking with other stores, these are all the great opportunities for you to be able to do that. So PROJECTSOLE, again, and this is really interesting, 50% of the brands are international. So let me tell you what that means. That means that most likely you won't be able to Google it and find them on Zappos for less money and free shipping and free return. So this is your opportunity to really have unique brands on the floor, brands that you could ask for an exclusive from. There's a lot of new brands that are there too that have the same kind of value and inherited value for your store and giving it that edge that other people don't have. And this is how we compete with the online stores, by having unique products that people can touch and feel and make a decision right on the spot. There's a really interesting area of made in Portugal. The Portuguese for many, many years in both textiles and footwear have been known for their extreme quality and attention to detail. So please, you do take a time to look for it. And, don't be overwhelmed too if the FOB is a foreign country. It makes it so easy now to ship through UPS and FedEx, and you might ask for duty paid shipping, which means door to door, and they will calculate that in the price of the goods. But don't let that be a deterrent from trying something new. There's a couple of brands here that are also highlighted that make a really nice impact for your stores too. So Market is the more traditional men's brands. You'll find some suiting there, you'll find ties, you'll find accessories, you'll find more tailored goods, and of course you'll also find a sprinkling of footwear and accessories. So I'm going to probably mention this again a couple of times because of the importance of it. Even though it's not your product category, it is so extremely important to walk every single row of the show. Just to get a feeling for the industry, I keep mentioning how important it is for you to be the credible expert. You know, so many people go online, they write blogs, they take pictures on Instagrams, and they consider themselves an expert. But just to really get a feeling, to talk, to learn, to take advantage of all these different segments that are happening at the show is really, really worth your time. So there's a couple of brands that are pointed out here, and the different neighborhoods are Brits, which are, again, as you can imagine, are a lot of the British menswear line. So you see how you're building this really eclectic international kind of collection in your shop without even having to have a passport. So there are a lot of happenings in this area too. There's the Club Room, MR Magazine, which if you don't subscribe to it, it's really a must. They're having a mix and mingle, again, a great opportunity to network. And of course, there's a lot of other things going on too, and some of the bloggers that, you know, if you take a moment now, it is really important to start following them because they have some great insight on new trends and more consumer behavior that is really important for us as retailers. So Project Women's, I'm so excited about this. There's quite a few different neighborhoods. And again, I'm going to say it again, walk the whole show, really take the time to do that. Project Women gives you a big variety, and you're going to find not just really contemporary and denim and, of course, the accessory footwear that's all kind of mixed in, but you're also going to find a variety of fits and sizes. So really just take the time to do that. And you know what? I'm going to step back for a second because we get this question a lot, like, you know, how do I tell if something fits or and I could always tell like a new buyer on the floor because they get this urge to try everything on. And I have to tell you a secret. First of all, we're mocking you, or at least I am. That's not how you do it because a lot of the times the samples that you're looking, especially if it's pre-season, might be made in a sample house, which means that the production is not going to have the same fit as what you're looking at as a sample. The other thing is that there's no standards of fit and sizes. So what I like to do is I like to ask the brand if they can compare themselves to a brand that I already know, that I already enjoy, that I know the fit. So they might say, we fit like so-and-so, but a little looser. Or they might say, well, look, I'm wearing a size 6 production, and this is what it looks like. So try to gauge it that way, too. So let's go to the next one, events and happening. And again, you know, there's a lot of stuff happening. It is important in such a short time to stay focused, and we'll talk about the buying tips, but you have to have your objectives clearly listed so that then you don't feel like anxiety when you're trying to enjoy all of these different experiences that are at the show. These tents that are just teepees, I should say, sorry, that are just full of like new trends and you're able to interact with them. It's just really just a really wonderful, fun experience. Fame, again, this is a must-go to area. Sometimes some of my better stores, the contemporary shops that I work with, kind of like turn their nose down. They're like, oh, everything there is inexpensive. I'm not going to use the word cheap. I'm going to say inexpensive. And that's really a foolish way of looking at things because the quality is really on the money. And it's really trend-driven. So this is a nice opportunity for you to test something at a more economic price point. It's also a great margin builder. And one of the things I like to talk about is some of the non-branded people that you'll find at Fame, you know, switching out the label and starting to develop your own private label. This is probably the best place to do that. And yes, it is legal to take out labels and put your own label in. But the key word in that sentence is your own label. You can't be putting like Ralph Lauren in there because now we're talking about counterfeiting. So a lot of the area too, you'll see where it says young contemporary. Do not be fooled by that term. It's not about a fit. It's about kind of a lifestyle. And, you know, people used to talk a lot about being age appropriate, but it's not really about age appropriateness anymore. It's really about lifestyle and how people feel about themselves. So as a merchant, also think about that you're not selling the person who they are. You want to sell to the person who they want to be. You want them to actually like come out of their shell and being able to offer a lot of these services as styling in your store to really keep you, you know, competitive with the online. So Accessories to Show is just that. It is jam-packed full of accessories. And, you know, I feel like there's a little picture there of socks, and I just want to talk about that, the importance of conversational socks. We have done blockbusters with it in men's, in women's, and we keep pushing the price point like higher and higher, like $8 sock, a $20 sock, a $30 sock, and we haven't gotten price resistance. So testing price points is another tip I like to share with you. It's always important to kind of keep pushing the envelope and understanding that you're also going to have a variety of price points in the store, like good, better, and best. I'm not going to say that 50% of your, you know, sock inventory is going to be a $30 sock. It just might be 2 or 3%, but it keeps it fresh, it keeps it interesting, and it also gives you that kind of range where you could try different things and really have fun with it too. So there is a lot of different brands, and I just want to mention something too, the cash and carry. It is kind of important. I always do it at the last day of the show to have a little bit of that cash and carry, because I like to put my Instagram picture up and say, this is going to be on the store on Friday. And then people, it really creates that kind of excitement and that fun from you being at this trade show in New York. So a couple of more information about the site happenings and what's going on. The show hours are basically 9 to 6 p.m. Except on the last day on Tuesday, which it ends at 4 o'clock. And just remember that usually people are wrapping up. So if you're leaving your last day for the cash and carry, I would probably start that around noon just to get, you know, in there right. Oh my, what's going on here? Okay, so transportation, there are complimentary shuttles. The first one is from Penn Station. It's also stopping on 8th Avenue and 36th Street. And the last one is 39th Street and 9th Avenue, all very close to Port Authority. So if you are going to take the shuttles, they start running at 8 o'clock on Sunday, and they stop running, well, the last one probably leaves the Javits Center around 5. Wait, that's not true. I think there's a later one too. I'm sorry about that. I'm not 100% sure, but this is why we have some fantastic people at the trade show. I always end up running after the last bus myself, so I'm not the best at that. But one thing about New York City, it is a great walking town, and there's so much development happening around the Javits Center. So do take a moment to kind of explore the city. There is some tips here on how to catch a cab. Do not stand in the middle of the street waving your hands like you're doing jumping jacks. That is definitely not the way to do it. And they'll give you a kind of an idea of what to be paying for different rides across the city. And also just keep in mind that a taxi is available. He shows that he's available by having the middle light on. Transportation to the airports, there's a couple of listings here for JFK, for Newark, for LaGuardia. There's an airport shuttle, which is very reasonably priced, between $15 and $19, depending on the price point that you're going to be at, which is just nice to do. And also, you know, I also find that it's fun to share these shuttles to the different airports, because this is where you also get that last opportunity to network with some of the other retailers. There are help desks and concierge services, and I just absolutely love this. If you haven't gotten an email from Celeste or one of the team members saying that we're here to help you, it is absolutely 100% true. They are here to help you. So if you have a specific need, if you're looking for a specific type of clothing, maybe you're interested in plus sizes, maybe you're interested in petite sizes, maybe you're looking for custom or any of the English brands doing custom suits, this is the email to send out and ask your questions before you get to show. It is so important to prepare as much as you possibly can so that you can make the best use of your time during the show. So food and dining, there are a couple of areas to eat. There are some really nice lounges. Breakfast is served, and this is free to all the buyers at 9 o'clock, and lunch is served at 12 o'clock. And again, I have met the most interesting people just sitting with somebody I don't know during these little, meal opportunities, I guess. And there is a code check, but I don't think that any of us will be using it at this July show. There are some show specials when it comes to hotels, and I just have to tell you that these are some really phenomenal prices. One of my favorites that I want to point out here is the York Hotel. It's like from the future. It's very, very cool how they have the whole operation set up, and the rooms are just lovely, and it's really close to Broadway and all the fun happenings and all the nice restaurants that are happening down in Hell's Kitchen. So a couple of things. My show planner, again, as much as you could possibly organize yourself before the show. This is going to help you search for vendors by category. If you have a keyword like plus size, petite, whatever it is, you could type it in and it'll give you an idea of all the brands that would carry that are listed in this new tool. There is, I'm sorry, I'm talking so fast, right? I'm so excited about this show, and there is so much to talk about. So, of course, we have plenty of time for questions and answers at the end. So I hope I'm making sense to everybody. So, Chapter Flora, this is also a program that you can download, and I consider this the show after the show. So you might have forgotten something. You want to be able to look at some line sheets. You might want to find more brands that have this specific category that you just tested one on. It's really easy to use, and you can start exploring Shop the Floor before you get to the show and kind of get a hands-on feeling for what's going to be there. And I just want to mention something too. I happen to use Shop the Floor after the trade show, but it's actually a really great tool before you get to the trade show too. So, a couple of tips for preparing for the show. First, it is kind of important to have a very clear understanding of what you want to buy. And especially for your new stores, I'm going to warn you, once you get there, every idea that you had goes out the door, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Just really take the time to stay focused, but leave yourself open to new things. And the way that you start a store and the way that it evolves and grows is going to be completely different. I'll give you a quick example of a couple of my favorites. Barney's used to be a men's discount store. The Gap only sold Levi's jeans and sweatshirts. Abercrombie and Finch, they used to sell outdoor equipment. So the way that you start, the way that you grow, and the way that you evolve, and this is very true for established retailers out there, you have to always be evolving and thinking about the next big trend. So again, if you haven't carried men's or if you haven't carried footwear, this is a really great place to try to start testing some of these. You want to be able to review, and this is mostly for the established retailers, what works and doesn't work. And I have to tell you, sometimes it's hard to let go of a brand, especially if you really love the salesperson and you love the brand and you love the prestige that it might give to the store. But the bottom line is, if it's not making money for you, you have to let it go. And if I have to give you a number right now, the boutiques that I'm working with, they're maintaining an average, that means after sales and promotions and discounts and all of that, of about a 47% margin. So if you're not getting at least that from some of your brands, it's time to reconsider them. Hold a meeting, talk to your staff, and this is how you empower people too. And I feel like if your staff is recommending a brand, they're going to be fiercely proactive about making sure that it sells, because nobody wants to be that one person that recommended something that doesn't sell. Take the time to talk to your customers, see what they want to see in your store. Every store, including mine, has that one, chatty catty that tells you like the neighborhood gossip and tells you everything that's going on and who stopped carrying what and what doesn't work. And so it is important not so dismissive of this, Kathy, and kind of listen to what she's saying, because in there might be some tidbits of information of opportunities that are available. We just actually had a gift shop that through her Chatty Catty that we all have, found the opportunity for a children's gift store. And she just tested a small amount of children's gifts in her regular gift shop, and it just exploded out of the water, where now she's taking that and opening a freestanding store just dedicated to that. So those are the opportunities that we're talking about. Spend time reading up on the fashion magazines, looking at the bloggers, some of the ones that we listed here, looking at what they're talking about as far as upcoming trends. And this is important too. We all want something new, but we want it to be familiar. It's okay to leave a percentage of your buy for just outrageous stuff, just really crazy. Sometimes we call them decorations, right? And then they sell. So really think about merchandising the store in that kind of way where it's fun, it's interesting, there's always something new. And you know, I'm going to tell you 9 times out of 10, that trend that you absolutely hated but bought anyway is going to make you the leader. And people are going to say, oh yeah, I saw that in so-and-so store 6 months ago. So just really don't be afraid of playing with something new. You have to have your budget. You're open to buy. And I know for many, many years, the idea was you just bought stuff and you put it away until the store was empty enough to put some more stuff out. And even though I am a fan of being a little bit overbought, every day that stuff is in your stock room, it's not making you money and it's costing you money because it's tying up cash flow dollars. So really think about how much money you need to spend every market. And I have a little diagram to walk you through that. And how much are in percentage-wise through each of the departments. Don't forget, if you haven't registered already for the show, please do so, because the lines can be quite big, and this is where we waste time and are using the time to their best. And do use the My Show Planner just to get a heads up on what's going on with the show. So this is one of the big questions that we get. How do I dress for the show? So I feel like this makes the most sense. Dress like you're going out on your first date. So you want to look kind of cute, but you want to look easy, or you're trying too hard. So that's my advice. You know, people think of, you know, I want to be comfortable. I'm going to be doing a walking around, and it's very stressful. But just, we work in the fashion industry, and as much as it doesn't sound pleasant, people will judge you. So just think about what you're wearing, and you know, don't be over the top, even though I personally love people that like are over the top. Those are the ones that get a picture from me. But just think about that first date. That's probably the best rule of thumb. Have your projections, you're open to buying your budget planned by category and department. Don't forget your business cards. And this is another thing too that is really my pet peeve. You know, cheapo business cards. We all know the little girl, doll girl with the shopping bag from Vistaprint. We know that it's free. And then there's like things spelt wrong, or there isn't a email on there. Like, this is your card. This is your presentation. This is part of your branding. This is your marketing. This is showing how professional you are. So please do take the time to have a good business card. And again, even if you're not open, this is all part of the smoke and mirrors. Have a notebook and a little stapler. I always like to collect cards, even if it's something I'm not buying today, but it's something that caught my eye, or I think it might be interesting in the future. I take notes of everything. If you come to my office, I literally have a giant bookshelf stacked with all of these notebooks from all of the trade shows over the years that I've gone through. So this is another kind of fun thing. Giant tote bags and those wheelie bags. So if I see you at the trade show with that giant tote bag, first of all, I know you're going to have a terrible backache that day. Do not be a catalog line sheet collector. All of these things can be sent to you digitally. If you're writing an order, which I'll talk about in a second, take pictures of what you're taking, because I promise you, if you start collecting all the catalogs, all the line sheets, all the handouts that they give you, you're going to collect them all with the intention of thinking, I'm going to go back to the hotel, or I'm going to go back home, spread them all out and write my orders. And I promise you, all you're going to do is spread them out and start crying, because you cannot remember everything. It's impossible. So me personally, and I'll jump in and talk about it right now. I feel like the best way of walking the show is when I see something, I just buy it. I don't have to confirm my order in the spot, but it's done. So if I find it down the street, or I should say down the row, or in the next aisle, or in the next, trade show, if I find it in Fame and I was at Market, I just make a note. I can buy it again. And then when I get home and I look at my pictures and I talk to my staff, I make the final decisions. I edit the orders. I look at the delivery dates. I look at the prices. And you know what I take for a lot of value too? The communication with the brand too. So if people are nice, they're going to ship me first and it's a decent price, I'm placing that order. And that's how I kind of judge what I'm going to get into the store and the order of importance of me submitting the order. So we'll go over that again. I know it's a little bit tricky and it's a lot, especially if you're your first time. This is another thing that I really suggest. If you can get an extra battery pack for your cell phone, I would bring it along with me. I find that the Javit just eats battery life. So just keep that in mind too. And of course at night, don't forget your laptop, especially if you want to do some of the paperwork while it's still fresh in your mind. So start the show early. I know you might want to do a Broadway show and have one glass of wine too many, but time is money. And this is so important as a buyer. I look at sometimes the P&L of some stores that are in a distressed situation, and they're spending an outrageous amount of money. They're flying to Paris, to go to the trade show, and it's more literally an ego trip than it is a buying trip. So now they've spent $10,000, but they've bought $1,000 worth of goods. So we really have to make sure that all of our trips, all of our planning has a good ROI, return on investment. Use the show planner, pick it up, see where the brands that you want, that you already made your list that are part of your objectives, but don't forget to walk row by row and all of the levels of the show. If you see a busy booth, just ask them, just interrupt them, say, hey, I'm really sorry. Remember, we're all there to do business. So it's not that you're being rude. And I should mention too, this is not a very good business for people that are easily intimidated and are shy. So if you can't say, hey, excuse me, when's a good time to come back? And the salesperson might shout back, oh, how it's 2 o'clock. If you're not comfortable in a situation like that, I would really consider maybe outsourcing the buying to someone else. You have to be aggressive. Don't forget to network. And for the established brands, retailers, I'm going to give you a goal to at least visit 10 new vendors. Even with my clients that have been in business for a very long time, if they see one new vendor a show, it's a lot for them. So I really want you to be that trendsetter, be that innovator, be that leader in your town, city, state, country, and really find and seek out these new designers and especially the international brands. So my tip is to wear comfortable shoes. And you want me to tell you the truth? No shoe at the end of the day is comfortable. So what I like to do is probably wear 2 different size heels, like a flat heel and a medium heel, and a higher heel, whatever works for you, but definitely bring 2 different pairs of shoes. So a couple of more buying tips. There is a lot of retail lingo that I wish there was like a handout or a dictionary, like an urban dictionary for you to kind of know everything, but at least the industry terms that we'll go about in just 1 second are very important. You may not know all of your shipping terms, your DDPs and your FOBs and all of that, and that's okay. And you could actually ask the vendor what they feel about it or what they're asking, or Google it later. But it is important, the very basic ones, to get familiar with, and we'll go over it in a second. Plan your orders. So that's why I don't want you to, confirm your orders at the show, but I do want you to write them. Now, you don't have like 6 months to confirm the order. That doesn't work that way. But you have about a week to 10 days to look at the orders and then send in your final confirmation to the vendors. I feel that canceling an order is probably the best way for a new retailer to get blackballed, and they won't take you seriously. And it's not just the one brand that you do it to, because salespeople switch. They're all sitting in the same row. They're all gossiping with each other. Did I tell you this is a judgmental and gossipy kind of industry? Well, now I did. So just really think about what you're doing before you make that commitment. And do take a picture of what you're buying. And my little trick is I like to take a picture of the brand sign and then maybe of the sales rep's business card, because you know you're going to lose it. And then I actually take in sequence as I write my notes and my orders of the things that I'm buying. So this is really important. Do not take random pictures of the booths, because there's a lot of corporate espionage that goes on in our industry. So if you're not buying and if you didn't ask permission, I would caution you that you might be embarrassed by one of the brands. Don't buy price or brand name. And you know, I just did a post on Instagram about how I feel like some of the brands sometimes like put out a practical joke to see which of the fashion victims is going to fall for it. And you know, there's a trend right now in scuffed up sneakers, when the trend has always been to keep your sneakers like immaculate. So I'm not sure if it's really a new trend or not, but the idea is that don't fall into it. Follow your gut feeling. Just because something is inexpensive and you feel like you could sell it for more money, then please do. And just don't fall like for every brand that's out there. Just really think about the new guys too, that you could be inspiring them and helping them and really be that new person. And don't forget, you are the buyer. Do not let anybody sell you something that you don't feel is right for your store. And I think one of the oldest sales lines that is still used is, hey, this is perfect for your store. How do you know it's perfect for my store when you've never been there? So another tip is we have to actually break up our budgets, our open to buys, in different parts. My suggestion is that you break it 45% of your budget at the beginning of the season. So right now we're buying spring 2019. Can you believe that? 2019. And I probably will spend about 45% of my budget right then. So in season, I'm spending about 35% of my budget, which you will see at this show. A lot of vendors will also have what they call immediate or in-season goods. So they might be showing you some August deliveries, some September, October deliveries. So now that sweater that you weren't sure about, or that, you know, zip nylon jacket that you weren't sure about, or that plaid that you weren't sure about, but you're seeing the trend getting stronger and stronger, this is when you probably want to buy into that. And of course, you want to leave a little bit of money, about 20% of your budget, for what we call at once. So for example, this spring, we did phenomenal with the color yellow. Like, who would have known? So now in season, like ship me tomorrow, I'm looking for yellow dresses, yellow prints, yellow backgrounds, really giving it that nice pop of color for the summer and for the transitional season. And if I didn't leave a budget, I wouldn't be able to do it. And also, this is an opportunity when brands at the very end of a season still have goods, they usually break price or discount. So this is a really nice moment for you to ask also if they have any at-once goods that have been discounted, or an industry term to use, if they've broken price on. So use that to kind of put your margins and help your margins out a little bit too by asking for discounts. So in case you haven't noticed, as buyers, and this is why I'm such an advocate of the owners not working in their stores every single hour that they're open, because buying is a full-time job. And you're actually buying 3 seasons every time you come into the market. And again, not everybody's going to have fall immediates, and not everybody's going to have off price. So that means you have to go to more and more brands in order to have these opportunities. So this is just a quick outlay of what an open to buy sheet should look like. I still like to do mine on Excel. There are programs that you could buy that kind of plan it ahead for you. There are some POS systems that are very helpful for doing this. But me personally, because I adjust it so often, if I have a rainy week, if I have a slow, like 4th of July, didn't that just blow everybody away with it being right in the middle of the week? I couldn't decide like which weekend was going to be the stronger, if it was the one before, if it was the one after. So all of those things take adjustments that you have to do in real time, and I hate to say this, but there's also a lot of gut feeling that goes with it. You know, and one of the industry trends right now is artificial intelligence. You're hearing all the big department stores talking about matrices and matrons and formulas that these robots are going to formulate to tell me what I like. Want me to tell you something? I don't even know what I like. So how is a robot going to tell me? So doing it this way, especially in the beginning, I want to encourage you. So it's basically you write down the months, you figure out what your sales projections are for each month, and you allocate the dollars accordingly. And one rule of thumb is that if I plan to sell X number of dollars, I should have 3 times that amount at retail dollars. So if my store is going to sell $30,000 a month, the rule of thumb is to have $90,000 in retail dollars. So why do I emphasize retail dollars? Because that markup could have been 3 times, could have been 4 times, could have been 2 times. So it's really important to understand your markup at wholesale so that it adjusts correctly at retail. So once, and again, I don't want to overwhelm you, but for the more established retailers, we should be breaking down our departments and classifications by percentages too. Do I outsell short sleeves versus long sleeves in the summertime? Do I sell more dresses than skirts? You know, here's a rule of thumb that I think is kind of universal for everybody. Most people will buy 3 tops for every bottom. And in menswear, I believe that they buy 5 tops for every bottom. So just knowing the percentages and the ratios gives you a better idea of your ROI. So a couple of questions, and this is where we get into some of the vocabulary. First, when I come up to a booth, especially if I don't have an appointment, I like to ask, can I take a look at the collection? And it is really important for me to start sizing things up. And one of the things that I do is that I'll pull up a blouse, or I'll pull up a shirt, or look at a pair of socks. And in my mind, I'll say, well, my customer will pay me $20 for this. So now once I see, like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff here that works for me, and I feel like if the price point's right, I can write an order. Now I'll ask, can you give me an idea of price point? So of course, you know, some vendors are going to be very kind of snarky, and they're going to say, oh, it starts from $1 and goes to $1 million. And now you're going to, you know, this is where we have to be kind of assertive and say, you know what, let's try this again. Give me an idea of your wool socks. Give me an idea of your cashmere socks. Give me an idea of your nylon socks. And now they know that you're not just kicking tires. And again, I don't want to defend any vendor, but they spend a lot of resources, time, money, energy for these trade shows. And if you're going to go and just like ask a million questions because you don't know what you're doing and take up the vendor's time when they have to be selling, this is why they get like a little snarky like that. So ask them for the idea of price point. And now if they say, well, yeah, that item that you thought you could sell for $20 is actually $200 wholesale, you know, ask the question, well, why is that? And sometimes there's a very legitimate question, and sometimes there's not. So you have to kind of figure out what works for you, what the perception of value is. You know, made in Portugal has a higher perception of value than made in other countries. The fiber content, is it cashmere, is it wool, is it synthetics, are they super synthetics where they protect me from radiation beams, you know, like all of these things we have to kind of take into consideration when it comes to pricing, because a t-shirt's not always just a t-shirt. The next thing is your start date and your cancel date. And this is so important because your orders are legal documents. So having said that, if you just put as ready start date and you wanted these outerwears for your Christmas sale and they send them to you at the end of July, it was your fault because you didn't put a start date. A lot of the brands will say as ready, and as ready means whenever I feel like it. So I like to put a window of opportunity of maybe 2 weeks, maybe 30 days, but they have to ship me as one shipment. And if you don't put it that way, I promise you, you will get one item every day for as many items you bought on that order. And a lot of times the vendors will say, and again, it's just to make their life easier, right? They might say, well, our spring deliveries start in February and end in April. So now you have to say, okay, great. Show me what comes in February. Show me what comes in March. Show me what comes in April. And I will write you 3 separate orders. So yes, it takes time, but trust me when I tell you, the time you spend in writing your orders correctly will save you thousands of hours later trying to fix mistakes and costly mistakes that, since you didn't write the orders correctly, is really on you. So the cancel date is the last legal date that the vendor can ship you without you canceling the order. So remember when I said don't cancel your orders? If you wanted, Valentine's Day good and you wanted them to come in at the end of December, so you have like 6 weeks to sell it and you have time to, tag it, price it, put it out, and they ship it to you on February the 14th, you have the right to cancel it. So that's why it's so important to really cross all your T's and dot your I's when you're writing the orders. It is important to ask where do you ship from. So the technical word there is FOB, freight on board, which is kind of an old term, but we still use it a lot. And the reason why you want to know that is where are you shipping, where are you paying the shipping from? So they might say FOB is Portugal, and you're like, well, I want a landed price. I don't want to pay, the shipping from Portugal. Or you might say, if they're shipping from New Jersey and your store is in New York City, you might say, hey, we're within the 30-mile radius. Can you ship me for free? So this is really kind of a negotiating tool too. What are your terms and are you factored? So this is the nice way of saying, how am I paying? And as new stores, and most of you actually established retailers, which I don't know why, have not established industry credit. So you're going to pay by credit card. And I just want to be very firm about this. Do not leave your credit card at the show. If they ask you for it, say, it's company policy. We just don't do that. I need to have a pro forma invoice. And plus, remember, you're not confirming the order, so they shouldn't be asking you for your credit card. And I could tell you hundreds of stories about how the credit card gets lost, the numbers show up on somebody else's, restaurant bill. Like, you just don't want to do it. You want to be able to go back, edit your orders, and have them send you a pro forma invoice, which you're going to match the invoice to your written order. And if I haven't emphasized that, you need to write your own orders on your own paper and write your own description. Because if you leave it to the vendor to write the order, they're just going to put a style number and a price. And are you going to remember that it was a blouse or a dress or a pant or a shirt? You're not. So you want to be able to understand your own hieroglyphics. That's how I always kind of say it to myself. So you want to be able to match everything, and then you want to be able to hand them your credit card information on your own form. And the reason why you want your own form, because it's going to say two things. You may never charge my credit card again without my written authorization. And the second thing it's going to say, you must ship me within 48 hours of charging the credit card. And what happens a lot of times is they charge the credit card and they forget to ship. Or they don't even have the goods and they're charging you because they need the cash flow. Or, and this is my favorite thing, it takes 30 seconds for them to charge your credit card. It takes you 30 days to get your money back. So it is really important for you to be in control every step of the way, when you're getting the goods, when you sign off on the goods, when you pay for the goods. So what is your size run and how do they compact? Now we're asking, like, a lot of the guys in Fame, they might have 6-piece pre-packs, which are 222, or they might be 141. So you have to kind of figure out if that pre-pack works for you. Don't even bother asking, well, can I just have 111? No, because they just told you that it's pre-packed. And that's the way they get it from their factory, and that's the way that they want to ship it out to you, because it actually saves a lot of money doing that. In the more contemporary upscale, and I find a lot of the men's, it's open scale. So what that means that they might have a minimum per style. It could be 2 pieces, 3 pieces, 4 pieces, and you get to pick the size run that you want. So if you want just all smalls or all larges or something in between there, you can do that. So if you notice, a lot of new stores walk into a booth and their first question is always, what is your minimum? So if you're going to start a conversation like that, you've already told the vendor, I'm new, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't trust my own instincts, please take advantage of me or ignore me completely. And that's not the impact that you want to make. So if you notice, that question comes almost all the way at the end. And to be honest with you, I'm actually asking just to be polite, because I don't care. Because I am not buying anything that I don't feel works for my store. So I'm not saying that if the minimum is $500 and you've bought 10, that's probably not a very good brand for you and you need to walk away anyway. But if the minimum order is $500 and you're up to $400, it's a conversation, a very simple conversation. Hey, listen, it's the first time that we're working together and I appreciate that you have this minimum, but this is what I'm comfortable buying right now and I really feel that it's going to do well and I'll come back and I'll be your #1 fan. That's a very honest conversation. And I feel like 90% of the time, no, even more, like 98% of the time, they're fine with it. Every once in a while, you'll get some corporate person that's like, oh no, at the sales meeting, they told us $500. So that's when you take your order with you, you thank them in your most sarcastic tone, and you walk away. And after everything is said and done, once the dust settles and you've gone back and you're like, yeah, I really want this order, it's the right things, it's going to, dress up my store, it's going to perk it up, it's a new brand, call them and ask for the sales manager and just say, hey, listen, I wrote this order at the show and I want to know if you can work with me. I'm really comfortable. Or what I do, it's kind of more a sneaky approach, is I have somebody else in my office email it to them. And then if it goes through, we don't say anything. And if it doesn't go through, I always blame that person. I'm like, oh my gosh, Lynn in my office is so efficient. She saw it on my desk and processed it. But now that it's in front of you, can't you help me out? So it's always that conversation. And I feel like very rarely they're going to shut you down if you're just very frank and honest about it. So is this the best you could do? And this one question could be a whole day workshop. What I'm asking you to do is ask for incentives, ask for postcard, ask for free, gift for purchase, ask for a 10% discount for a new store, ask for whatever it is. But the point is, if you don't ask, nobody's going to offer you any kind of initiative. So after the show, your job is not done. This is where the real work begins. So any line sheets that were due to you and you've kept the card and you stapled it to your book and you're going to start calling them up and say, hey, can you send me this and can you send me that? You're going to review your orders. You're going to edit all of your orders. And it's okay to do that to cross things out. And again, don't worry about the minimums. And things that don't fit in the budget, you might kind of adjust a little bit and say, okay, you know what, I'm a little bit over budget, but this is a nice margin builder, so I'm going to put it in anyway. So think of it in that kind of a way. And here's something that's really important too. You have to confirm your orders and you have to follow up on your orders. I find that when we pre-buy in a season, about 30% of the orders we write don't ship. It don't ship for many reasons. It didn't go into production. Enough people didn't like it. The production quality was too shabby. The fabric never came in. So whatever it is, if you don't call up and constantly follow up on your orders, nobody's actually going to call you and tell you you're missing 6 styles or you're missing 2 styles or whatever it might be. So just keep that in mind, because an empty floor you cannot make money from. And follow up on the orders again and again and again. And also, this is another additional tip. Start using your own UPS and FedEx number to ship, because the more you ship, the deeper discount you get from these companies, and that's another revenue that the vendor is not going to share with you, and that's another discount that they're not going to share with you too. So it really, really is a business of nickels and dimes. And if you're not watching every nickel and every dime, all of a sudden you're like, I have a great business, I sell a lot, but I don't have any cash flow. So just keep that all in mind. So now we're going to open the floor to some questions.
Thank you so much, Mercedes, for all your helpful hints and tips and all your insider knowledge. We did have a few questions come throughout the presentation, so we're going to answer them now. If you do have any more questions, please use the Q&A tool on the presentation page now. The first question we had that came through, Mercedes, was what's the best way for a new buyer in the business and how can they to prepare for this show?
So let's see, there's a lot of things that you have to figure out. First, you have to figure out how much money you have to spend at the show. You have to figure out, your sales per square foot so you could come up with an initial budget. You have to figure out the brands and the price point. And this is where I feel like a lot of people neglect, because they only tend to keep one price level in the store. So being able to spread out, even if we go back to denim, that you have an opening price point denim, that people don't really think about. You have your really popular brand name denim that might reach out all the way over $200, and then you have to have something in the middle of the road. So there's a lot of consideration, especially when you're trying to build like the image of the store and really separate you from the other ones that might be in your area.
Great, thank you so much, Mercedes. We also had a few questions come in about the presentation, if it will be available after. We will be sending this presentation to you a few days after we wrap up today. It also will be available on the educational page that we have on ubmfashion.com. It's ubmfashion.com/education. On the education page, you'll be able to find this webinar along with other really great webinars we've had for our other marketplaces and also trend webinars. The other questions we had coming in today was regarding the dates for 2018 for this marketplace and the upcoming ones. So we do have an outline of the UBM Fashion 2018 market calendar for New York, Las Vegas, and now even Japan. You will receive this presentation, and you can also find all the dates listed on our website.
Thank you, Erin. Hi, my name is Celeste Bohm. I'm the VP of Retail Relations for UBM Fashion. I just wanted to let you know that whether your store buys men's, women's, kids, footwear, accessories, we have a retail expert in-house that can help you navigate the show, help you find new brands, help you find new resources. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us and introduce yourself and make that contact, and we'll be very happy to help you. And also, when we're at the show, we are available on site to help you navigate, to help you find new brands, help you to figure out what's the best way to get around. So again, we're there to help, and please don't hesitate to reach out. We would like to thank Mercedes one last time. If you would like to connect with Mercedes or find out more about global purchasing companies, please, the contact information is on the slide that you're seeing currently, and will be included in the presentation that you'll receive post-webinar.
I have one last thing I would love to talk about, which is our newest event. It's a coterie pop-up at Faena. If you're in the Miami area, please make sure to stop by our first ever event, coterie pop-up at Faena Bazaar. It starts today through to July 18th, and here you will be able to discover a one-of-a-kind shopping destination featuring about 30 brands from around the world. So make sure you take a break from your Miami Swim Week appointments and stop by our new Shop Now, Buy Now, Wear Now event. Once again, thank you so much, Celeste and Mercedes, and everyone who attended the webinar today. If you have not registered for the show, please head over to ubmfashion.com and ensure you're registered to attend this July. We look forward to seeing you in less than 2 weeks now in New York City for the launch of New York Men's and Women's.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great day, and see you at the show.